Hello. Is it still the winter of Takakeisho's discontent, or is he ready to march? So through!
Throw the salt, get in the ring. Welcome to the Dohyo.
Hello, and welcome back to the Dohyo here on MrJWags channel. Yes, as you can see by the blue background, we are back in New York. Spring is springing, and it is attacking my eyes with all of the pollens, and that is amazing for the pollen, but not so great for the eyes. So no, I am not crying, I'm just having a lot of allergy issues right now. But we are back, and we are ready with some bolder predictions for the upcoming March Basho. Now, to set the scene, previously on Grand Sumo, in January, of course, we had a whole bunch of guys we thought maybe would be on Ozeki runs, and then they all sort of took a step back. But then Takakeisho, who I have been perpetually underestimating for the past 2 years, managed to get his fourth double-digit wins at Ozeki, his second 12-3 in a row, which makes it a playoff loss and a Yusho, was not promoted to Yokozuna, so everyone is wondering, can this be the tournament where Takakeisho breaks out and gets that Yokozuna rope? We will talk about that soon. The other big news is that it looks like Terunofuji is not going to be here. So that will be the second straight tournament. We do not have our alpha dog, our Yokozuna, the top of the pyramid. So it feels like this Basho is an opportunity, sort of maybe the last opportunity for a bit. Well, it's like we can have our fun while Big Daddy is away. So this particular tournament looks like it is going to be very difficult to predict. But I'm going to try anyway. Now, we seem to have reached a point, at least in the Makuuchi Bansuke, we're going to talk about Juryo in a second, but in the Makuuchi Bansuke, I feel like we have finally sort of achieved a balance. There are not a whole lot of wrestlers, I think, are horribly overranked or horribly underranked. I think right now, we have the people right about where they're supposed to be. And that leads us to our first bold prediction. The Three Sekiwake will get 30 plus total wins. Yes, I'm very excited about the current Sekiwake crop. You see, we are very light on the top, as we only have one Yokozuna, who will likely not be there, and only one Ozeki, who might be getting promoted, but still, only one Ozeki. But the Sekiwake, Wakatakakage, Hoshodyu, and Kiribayama are all looking very good to me right now. They're all young, they're still in their prime, or in the case of Hoshodyu, pre-prime, and they all still have an opportunity, I think, to make tiny adjustments to their sumo to get that one extra leap to get them up to Ozeki. Now, my bolder prediction is of the three of them, Kiribayama will be the standout. Okay, now, Wakatakakage seems to have this thing where, like, every third tournament, he gets double-digit wins. So I think he's going to get double-digit wins in this tournament, but even though he won Haru last year, I don't think he's going to win Haru this year. But I do expect a strong 9 or 10 wins out of Wakatakakage. Hoshodyu. Now, I've been saying for years I was expecting Hoshodyu to win his first Yusho either in March or May of this year. It's really hard for me to pick a guy for the Yusho when he's coming off of an ankle injury like that. Of course, in the last tournament, he had an ankle injury midway through the Basho. He ended up barely getting his Kachikoshi on the final day with a little help from a hair pull from Onosho, so he did not finish very strong. The current news about Hoshodyu is telling me he still has pain, but he has full range of motion. Now, I know when I'm working and I'm working through an injury, I tend to take things a little bit easier, but then again, I am not a wrestler, I'm a musical theater actor, so me marking fight choreography is a little different than someone marking an actual fight that is their actual full-time job. So I expect Hoshodyu to go full out, I'm just not sure the body is going to fully agree with him this time. However, that said, I do expect him to get 8 or 9 wins in this tournament. A solid Kachikoshi for the Sekiwake. Now that brings us to Kiribayama. Now, he's not the youngest, that's Hoshodyu, but he is 26, about to turn 27, hitting that peak age we've talked about before, where he might be able to take a physical leap. He's been up in the Joijin and Sanyaku for a while now, so it's not like he's going to be surprised by any of the wrestlers who are up there. He's been able to sort of build a book on all of the top rankers. That plus, he got his first 11-win Basho last tournament up in the Sanyaku, so these are all great signs. I do not expect this to be the leap that takes him to his first Yusho, but I do expect him to be in contention on the very last day. Go Kiribayama! Now, while I mentioned the Makuuchi Bansuke seems to be in a decent amount of balance, the Juryo Bansuke is fascinating right now. First of all, we have a perfect mix, I think, of just like vets who are aging their way out of Makuuchi and a whole bunch of youngsters coming up, and they are going to meet in the battlefield of Juryo, and it's going to be very, very exciting. Juryo right now has 4 former Makauchi champions in its ranks: Asanoyama, Tochinoshin, Ichinojo, and Tokashoryu with his surprise. Now, I'm not expecting all 4 of these guys to still be at their championship level, Tochinoshin and Tokashoryu especially, but I do expect them to make the Juryo race very interesting. So my bold prediction is Asanoyama will get his 2nd straight Juryo Yusho. It's very hard to get 2 straight Juryo Yushos, primarily because if you win one, you generally get promoted. But we had a very special case where Asanoyama was all the way down there in the low Juryo teens, ended up getting a 14-1 and got promoted to Juryo 1. Right there on the borderline. If he gets 8 wins, he's going up. I'm very sure that's going to happen. But we will see if he gets the Yusho. I think he does, but the bolder prediction, it's not going to be a 14-1. This one will be a much harder Yusho for Asanoyama. First of all, this is his 2nd tournament in Juryo, so the people who were there before now are starting maybe to build a book on Asanoyama. Second of all, like I said, we have a lot of these veterans who are working their way down, and they have faced Asanoyama before. And third, since he's right there at the top of Juryo, Asanoyama is probably going to be the first to get promoted up to Makauchi if there are any absences, which I'm pretty sure there will be. Looking at you, Terunofuji. So yes, my bolder prediction, Asanoyama gets the Juryo Yusho with 11 or 12 wins. And now it's time for 3 Up, 3 Down, a recurring segment where I look at the Banzuke and I find 3 people who I think are underranked and will probably do very well in this tournament, and 3 people who are overranked and may have a difficult tournament. So starting with my 3 Down. Now, when you're trying to do prediction videos and you have difficulty trying to figure out who is going to shine out of a particular group of wrestlers, especially when there is as much parity as there is in this Banzuke, sometimes I like to look at where are the losses going to come from. And when you get to those top 15 wrestlers, the losses have to come from somewhere. So if I'm expecting a whole lot of Sekiwake excellence, someone's going to be on the downside of that. And I think they're going to be these 3, and they're right in a row on the Banzuke. Magashira's 1, 2, and 3 West. Shodai, Ryuden, and Nishikigi. Now, Shodai, of course, just lost his Ozeki status. He was at Ozekiwake. He didn't do as well there as we had hoped. He got a 6 and 9, and now he's down in the Magashira ranks. Magashira 1 West. I expect him to continue the Makekoshi trend. He's facing the exact same wrestlers he was facing for the past 2 tournaments and didn't get a Kachikoshi in any of them, so I'm pretty sure Shodai is going to be taking it in the chin on this one. He just doesn't have the timing he used to have on that Tachiai, and if he doesn't have that Tachiai working, we're down to cartoon sumo, and he's a little old for that. That brings us to Ryuden. Now, in the last tournament predictions, I was like, I think Ryuden's going to do real well, just below the Joy. And he did, but now he's up in the Joy. Those Magashira who have to face all of the Sanyaku. Now, if you look through Ryuden's matches, you're like, oh, but he beat some people in the Sanyaku. Well, he did, but he beat Shodai, who we've already discussed was not having a great tournament, and he beat Hoshoryu after he had already gotten injured. Now, at his best, Ryuden was like a Komasubi-level wrestler. We are not talking about over a year after that peak. I do not expect him to be quite the same wrestler he was back then, and I do expect him to have a very rough adjustment back to the top ranks. And Nishikigi, now he had a surprising tournament last tournament, but if you look through his 9 and 6, his most impressive win, Banzuke speaking, was Midori Fuji at Maegashira 3 West. Now, I love Midori Fuji and I love the fight in him, but he's also not what I would call an elite wrestler at this point. So I would be worried about Nishikigi having a very, very bad tournament, possibly double-digit losses. Sorry. And now our 3 up, starting with Maegashira 15, Oho! Now, Oho has had an interesting journey. It took him a while to get up through Juryo. He's still a relatively young man, but once he got to Makauchi, he's sort of been just hanging out in the lower Maegashira. 2 tournaments ago, it looks like in November he had this breakout, and we're like, it's gonna happen. And then in this last tournament, he got a 4 and 11. We're like, what the heck happened? So I'm guessing it is a mixture of nerves for being the highest he's ever been on the Banzuke and some sort of injury that we have not been fully briefed on. Hoping he is healthy for this tournament, because if he is healthy, I see him doing a lot of damage in lower Maegashira. I don't expect him to pull like an obvious surprise, but I do expect him to get at least 9 wins at Maegashira 15. Maegashira 10, Nishiki Fuji. One of the new guys from Isagahama. Very excited about this guy. As we noticed, he had been shooting his way up the Banzuke with a lot of Kachikoshi. Then, in the last tournament, seemed to hit that Joy Wall, as predicted. So, now that he's bounced down from that Joy Wall, I think he's going to get a chance to rest, recoup, and start his charge back up. I think maybe the second time he hits the Joy, he'll have a lot better success. But now, he's way lower than that. He's in Maegashira 10. I think he's going to get 10 wins. And our final up, Maegashira 7, Takayasu. Let us not sleep on Takayasu. He was my Yusho pick last tournament, and then he got hurt. But there's one thing we know about Takayasu. When he takes Kyujo, he comes back very strong. Look at his recent history. Now, of course, this could be the injury, the final injury, the one that ends up doing it, but I am hopeful that Takayasu has one more big run in him. And I think that this could be, if we have any weird Maegashira jumping out and like having a great tournament, to me, the choice is clearly Takayasu. As I mentioned, the Banzuke seems to be in rather good balance right now, so I think the Sanyaku is largely going to stay as it is for this tournament. I think that we're going to have Terunofuji go Kyujo, so that's expected, but for the rest of the Sanyaku, my bold prediction is only one Makekoshi, and that's a big Sanyaku, so that's 7 other guys who are all going to get Kachikoshi. And the person I'm going to pick, unfortunately, Tobizaru. I love the flying monkey. We all love the flying monkey. But he seems to have locked himself into this sort of Abi level of sumo where he's going to get between 7 and 9 wins per tournament, and I just feel this one's going to be a 7-win tournament. So I expect a mild Makekoshi out of Tobizaru. But in general, a very good tournament from the Sanyaku. The bolder prediction, of our 3 Makauchi debutantes, there will also be 1 Makekoshi, and I believe it will be Bushozan. Our other 2 debutantes, Kinbozan and Hokuseiho, I feel have a little bit more oomph behind them, and I think hanging out down there at the lower ranks of Maegashira should not be too difficult of a task for them. So the bolder prediction, those 2 are going to get Kachikoshi, and one of them will get 10 wins, probably Kinbozan. And just talking further about the concept of parity in the Makauchi division, bold prediction, there will be no undefeated wrestlers after day 7. Yeah. I think this is a tournament where we could have 1 or 2 guys have a good run out, like they win their last 8, but I also feel like this tournament is a tournament where everyone's going to have at least 1 match in the first week where they're not at their best, they make a mistake, someone comes in with something utterly unexpected. So yeah, I feel like this one's going to be a dogfight the entire tournament. Which leads me to my bolder prediction, there will be no fewer than 3 Rikishi in contention going into day 15. Yeah, I think this one's going to be a dogfight. Now it's time for Which Way We Goin', a recurring segment where we highlight a few Rikishi who I'm not exactly sure which way they are going, up or down on the Banzuke, but I feel this tournament will teach us a lot about where they are in the curve of their sumo. Starting off, Maegashira 3 and former Ozeki Mitakeumi. Now, I do love Mitakeumi, and I really want to believe in him, and I feel like of the most recent Ozeki we've had going down, speaking of like Shodai, Tochinoshin types, I feel like Mitakeumi could make a bounce back up. I just am not sure what is ailing him at the moment. I'm pretty sure it's a chronic shoulder injury because he's had those throughout his entire career. He's not getting any younger, but I do not feel he is so old that he can't have a Takayasu-like resurgence. So, I'm looking forward to this tournament and seeing what happens with him. I do not expect him to have as disappointing a tournament as he had in the past, but does he have anything left to get another run back up into the Sanyaku? Maegashira 4, Onosho. Now, Onosho, of course, has been a very inconsistent Rikishi ever since his knee injury a few years ago, and we have determined on this channel he has sort of a hard ceiling around Maegashira 2. Every time he gets Maegashira 2 or higher, he always gets a Makekoshi. This is Maegashira 4. He has managed to get a Kachikoshi here in the not too recent past, but he has done it before. So I'm just interested, has he made an actual jump? I noticed in the last tournament he did very well. He's not doing as poorly in the weeble-wobble backward-forward balance issues he seems to have been having, but that also could be because he wasn't necessarily wrestling the top slate. Near the end of the last tournament, he started facing some better opponents, did not do as well as had hoped, but we will see. Has this been a leap, or did he just have a good tournament? Also Maegashira 4, Meisei. So what has happened to Meisei? He has been a little hard to sort of like put a pin in and figure out what his true talent level is. I think he's been suffering from injuries, and it seems like every time he makes it up to like the Sanyaku level, he just gets smacked down again. So maybe his true talent level just happens to be mid Maegashira, and he's just at that point. However, I would not be surprised if he manages to like pull himself up by the bootstraps and get another good tournament here. I don't expect a lot of crazy error bars in this. I would expect Meisei right where he is, right below the Joy, to be around 7 or 8 wins, but we will see. He might have another great one in him, or another really, really bad one. And then finally, Maegashira 5 and future Yokozuna Koto Shoho. Alright, now the Koto Shoujo train has been a train with a lot of twists and turns in it. It has not been straight track. As I've said before, I sold a lot of my Koto Shoujo shares very, very early on in the past year. He was down in Juryo, and even when he made it back to Makuuchi, he had not been doing very well. Well, in the last tournament, he got an 11-4, ended up facing Takakeisho in the Musubi no Ichiban for the title, ended up not winning. But I feel like Koto Shoujo might have made a jump here. But I have been burned by him before. So I'm willing to just wait a little bit to see if this was a true leap in talent. He is young enough, he is talented enough, he is in a very strong stable. All signs are pointing to yes, but I just don't know if I can trust you yet, Koto Shoujo. Please prove me wrong on this one. Alright, so we're here, and we're down to the Yusho pick. This one might be a little controversial, but I have my reasons. So, my bold prediction is that Takakeisho is going to get his third consecutive 12-3, and he will lose in a playoff to our Yusho champion. Alright, so my bolder prediction is Takayasu Yusho. Now, Takayasu famously has never gotten to 13 wins, and I don't think it's going to matter in this tournament. I think he's going to be able to bank a whole bunch of wins early on in the tournament. Maybe not get to 7 in a row. Don't think that's going to happen. But I think he can finish the first 7 days at 6-1. And if he starts there, he might get promoted up to face Sanyaku members who he's already faced for years, so I'm not that worried about him getting promoted down the stretch. Now yes, this broke my heart a little bit too, because I would really love Takakeisho to get the rope, and I had a very difficult time deciding between Takayasu, Takakeisho, and Kiribayama. As I said before, I don't think Kiribayama quite has the experience yet to be able to pull it off for all 15 days. Takakeisho, he's just never done it before, and I don't know if another 12-3 will be even Yokozuna worthy. They want him to really break out and get like 13, 14, 15 wins, and he's never really done that before. He's only gotten 13-2, so I'm not quite sure about that. Takayasu has shown the ability to hang out in the top ranks, but he's never been able to get quite over the hump. He's become sort of the new Kiseno Sato in the always a bridesmaid category. So my reasons for choosing Takayasu are as follows. Number 1, alpha dogs recently have been in short supply, and Terunofuji is currently our alpha dog. Takakeisho has not quite jumped into that, so I still have him in the sort of in the mix category. And recent Sumo has told us, when it's in the mix, anyone can win. So I have a feeling that this might be another weird Maegashira victory. Number 2, I'm trying to trust my gut on the dark horse picks, because the last time I had a dark horse pick, I was sort of confident about it. I'm like, this probably won't happen. This will look really stupid if I guess this wrong. It was Ichinojo, and I didn't pick Ichinojo, and then he went on to win that tournament. So I want to trust myself on the dark horse this time and say, I think Takayasu has a real good shot at this one. Of course, Takayasu being so injury prone, this one has a possibility to age very, very poorly. And the third, and possibly most important reason to choose Takayasu, every time I choose Takakeisho to do well, he tends not to do very well. And I would really, really love to see Takakeisho get that rope. So, judge that how you will. I will be officially putting down Takayasu Yusho. But if anyone else happens to win, that might be awesome too. Thank you for joining us here on the Dohyo. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. That just means the YouTube algorithm will spread the show far and wide to everyone who might want to see it. And if you didn't like it, my name is Sumo Stu. Don't forget to stay tuned during the Basho. We are going to have our quick strikes, and we will, of course, have our recap at the end of the tournament, which you are not going to want to miss, so stay tuned for that. A whole lot of exciting things are happening personally, work-wise, which I will be able to announce to you all very soon, so stay tuned for a channel update for that. But otherwise, everyone stay safe, stay strong, stay healthy, and I will see you next time on the Dohyo.